Sophie and I first worked together in 2013 on a survey of her work, which was based on a new body of work at First Sight in Colchester. And for this, she painted a mural. I forget, Sophie, how many meters long?
Over 100.
Over 100-meter mural in that building. It was quite a challenging project because not only was the wall like 13 meters high in some points, it was also at like a 45-degree angle, I think. And somewhere in this sequence of images, maybe it appeared already, there's some pictures that show you just how that piece was also made. And so I guess I kind of thought about, I would start by going back to the beginning of when I first came across your work, which I think I was first aware of your work via your part in Hobby Pop Museum, which was a collective practice which formed while you were still studying, I think, at Kunstakademie in Düsseldorf in the late 90s. And for those of you who are not familiar, I thought I would try and summarize this broadly interdisciplinary practice which combined painting and installation, music and performance. And I think it was maybe also reflective of a certain moment in contemporary art whereby other artist collectives like Art Club 2000, or to take a more local reference, Gelatin, came also into the fore. And I wanted to ask you, first of all, what impact that way of working, which must be very different also to a studio practice as a painter, what impact this performative, collaborative practice had on the work that you do today?
Well, I guess a lot to do with the painting in company. It always makes you paint in a certain way. But by painting when you're filmed, or painting just when other people are in the room, that does change the way I paint. I mean, I'm always very conscious of. Oh, sorry. Is it fallen off? Oh. Is it okay? Yes, fine. Yeah. Perfect. So so painting in company. It focuses the mind in a certain way that you have to. Every brush stroke is immediately visible, not just to yourself, and it's visible to others in the room. So it has to perform really well. So that, I guess that has made me it has sped up my practice enormously by having other people in the room a lot, because I would, and also treating paintings a little bit like treating paintings not just as tableaus to be hung on the wall, but paintings as backdrops for performances or videos or just parties. That made them, the grandiosity of it made them greater, but it also made them lighter, the paintings, so that we could play with them like that. And it was a lot to do with the time, that there had to be some sort of, it wasn't like an apology for painting, but or an excuse even, but it just made it easier to be painting because of putting it in a sort of context, like within that's, and so that's. I guess it's still to this. That's why I'm happy to bring to paint wherever I am. I guess it comes from that time as well. Yeah.
I'm also very aware of in your work of like kind of what you described then. It was like a social conversation around the work or things happening around the work. But I'm also very aware of in your work of that kind of notion of society almost. And the way in which it draws on things that belong to all of us, to a kind of commons in a way, culture, music, cinema, literature, philosophy, the history of culture. And I'm wondering if, thinking back to that interdisciplinary way of working, if you almost internalized this interdisciplinariness as subject matter.
Probably, or whether I had it, and that's why that's what made it possible for me to work with the others, like I did. Yes, I mean, I would always. I mean, it's funny though, because I actually just paint all the time. So even though it's all I do. Yeah.
I wanted to talk about the process for making this piece, really from the beginning of. I mean, you said you just paint, but I know that there are. I mean, you made for us a series of disputable sketches. I know that there is a drawing practice. I don't know if the drawings are necessarily preparatory drawings or sketches. Yeah, maybe we can start from the very beginning and talk about how this work may be developed.
So I started this work because we talked about it. So I thought about, well, initially I thought about painting directly onto the wall in the vitrine, but coming here and realizing it would have been quite physically difficult and cumbersome, and also just quite difficult to just climb into each glass compartment of the vitrine. And even though I liked the idea very much, I realized that it would be difficult to paint the way I wanted to, because I wanted to paint one large painting, that a continuous flow. So I used the floor in my studio to roll out 3 lengths of canvas of 21 meters each to cover the whole length of the vitrine. And so in my mind, I was all the time here thinking of this, how it would slide into behind the glass and all the different frames, and how my painting then would work as how I should paint it, because of it, I wanted it to be like a one continuous painting, and the subject matter, because I mean, because of where it's located, where it is, and I wanted to paint something about. I mean, I wanted to show somehow what is understanding, like what does it actually look like? So, because of a slight misreading of actually Nora's piece, when I first saw it, when I visited it, I read it as like I see. So I see it not as a scream, but as like I see. So I decided that was somehow fixed. I see. So I understand, and then because of the wrapping around the building, I said, get your head around it, and then it all made sort of sense also with the location and what sort of associations I have with Vienna and like philosophy and writing, and then very specifically my professor Oswald Wiener, who I studied with in Düsseldorf, and who was a huge influence on how I think about thinking.
Yeah, I'm going to come to that. Perfect. What I wanted to talk about also there was also your process physically in the studio, because you're not painting like, even when you're working on a stretched canvas, it's on the floor. Often your stretched canvases, your paintings, and when you're hanging them on the back of them, there's your footprints and stuff, or even sometimes I think might be a few footprints in our piece, I can't remember. But yeah, the mural that you painted in Colchester had all these drips that, showed often the mural pieces have this like this trace of being vertical, but here this is like typically the way that you work. It's quite physical work, I think, like working on a certain scale, and with powdered pigments. So the canvas is very wet when you're working on it.
So that's somehow very much part of it, because I start with this very liquid surface. So this and it's very fragile, the image, because it sort of appears and it disappears at the same time. So I need to work really hard to make it make it remain on the surface. Whereas when I paint on the wall like that, of course, that doesn't happen at all. So it's each line is there forever. Whereas with the canvas, because of the painting into the liquid, immediately it's much more of a space in that is beneath the surface, above the surface, and then also different physical aspects of the pigments, because some are light, some are heavy, so some fly, some float, some sink. So it's a bit of a game to make them interact and to make the image appear.
It's just waiting for one image to come up, but it hasn't. Yeah, must have been before this sequence. But have you, with I think installing? Yeah, I can show you. It's here. But the other thing I think is quite extraordinary about the way you work is that you're often also painting with these huge extensions. In your studio, you have all these brushes which you've attached like other things to, so that you can get to parts of the canvas that you wouldn't otherwise be able to reach. So there's an incredible amount of control there. Yeah, it's a different way of working too, I think, than most people. Most people.
Yeah, I think everybody finds their way. It's just practical. I mean, I had to have a longer handle to get to, because I had to, in order to, and the brushes I paint with are also not the most forgiving. I paint with very cheap brushes, decorators' brushes, household brushes, but it's somehow, it doesn't, but that's, it's just...
it's a means to an end. Yeah. And both this mural, Get Your Head Around It, and The Bigger Picture have this kind of linear chronology, which is not, of course, the case with every painting, but these ones, I think, really allow you to, they have a start and an end, and they really allow you to kind of move through this chronological narrative, move through the picture as you walk alongside it. And I wondered, could we start by maybe talking, you already said a little bit about it a moment ago, but can you talk us through the imagery and get your head around it, maybe starting here with the bit that people can
Yeah, so
see
I did start, because I knew the vitrine goes around the corner, so I wanted to start with the moment of where light appears, so I used the primary colours of red, yellow and blue out of the white, out of which every other colour then comes, and so like a sort of I guess the Big Bang kind of moment of, and just to start, and then I went into from lightness to darkness, because I was, because of the way I was thinking of it, had to have apart from the dark frames from from the way the vitrine is because it's like it makes it so filmic, like a film strip. I wanted to also do that in the painting, sort of have a sort of staccato of like light and dark, because to make it clear that it's there's a moment of perception, of understanding. So there had to be like the most obvious differences between light and dark, like day and night. So of knowing that you are where you are. So, and then I from that idea I came into then things appearing like the animals, the water, the stars, the planets, the sun, that realizing that the earth is round, and that just always take images that make it apparent who we are, where we are, and then plants and then the idea of people developing technology, from the wheel to the where we are now with the technology. Yeah, so that's it's almost like it's not like it's the history of the world, but a little bit. So as you walk around it, you go through.
Yeah, I think the final images, the final kind of sequence of images are the wheels and the telegraph poles and then there's, I'm trying to remember now. There's kind of like an explosion or
sunset. Yeah. It's like sunset yeah.
Darkness. You mentioned already Oswald Wiener, and in a way, you kind of once, I think, mentioned also, or before we installed the piece, said that the piece is a kind of tribute to him. I think he died not that long ago, and he was, and particularly his theories of the Kenntnis theory. But can you tell us more about how this came to be a subject for this piece, your relationship to Oswald Wiener?
So because of epistemology, for me, it's like, yeah. So I just thought, because of where that, sorry.
He was teaching you though,
he was teaching me in Düsseldorf, and it was actually a seminar that I went to, many of us went to, that was all about the Turing machine and how, I guess artificial intelligence, and how do machines think? Can machines think? Can we think? That was actually the main topic. Can we think? How do we think, and how do we visualize things? Can we visualize things in our mind? This is of course what I then totally took with me is on my way, is this process of visualization and imagining things in your head, and what can you actually hold in your head. And he talked about it as like an impossibility. You can't think of something and it's a clear image in your head. And he talked about the moon, that if you visualize the moon, the image actually dissolves as you're trying to imagine it. And then I always sort of try to prove it wrong, that you can imagine things, but of course painting, the act of painting is already cheating, because then you even though you can pretend, oh yeah, I can see, I've got perfect visual memory, but actually even as you start with the first line, it helps you, because then that's down, and in a way he was right, you can't really have it still image or a proper image in your head. Maybe, of course, it's all training. He trained himself to visualize knots, like quite complicated knots, and he could really see them in his mind. He said, yeah. So that's what we did, like once a week, talking about. And he said, can anybody draw Coca-Cola, the logo? And then we all tried, because we all thought, oh yeah, of course we can, of course I can, Coca-Cola, but actually it's very complicated, and nobody had it really in their head. Yeah.
Do you still have your Coca-Cola drawing? No. The work also takes, Oswald Wiener is also a reference to Vienna in a way, and the work also takes like different accents, I think, from Vienna. Like there's a reference to Karl Popper. There's a lot of natural subjects, which you told me were also, kind of an acknowledgement to the location of the piece here in the Museumsquartier and the proximity to the Natural History Museum. It's different already to the piece the mural that you made in Colchester, in the sense that was a piece that really, told a story of the history of the town in many ways, and had these kind of very famous moments. In a way, I think you can locate the Vienna as a city of ideas in this piece, but it's also very subjective, intuitive, maybe, exploration of that subject. Can you tell us a bit more how these references came into play?
Well, I did in my preparations and thinking about how to paint thinking. I sort of thought, and some images I thought had to be in there, like the cave, Plato's cave, the people dancing around the fire. I also thought that reference to first human mark making, like in the cave paintings, had to be in there. And I thought somehow, for some reason, because I wanted the animals in there, because I think it's so important to they are now thinking that we think of us amongst other animals, and then I wanted the images, some of the images, to be very startling and arresting. So the dolphin sort of jumps out of the water, and the peacock sort of has all open feathers, and it's like these flashes of clarity, and the wheel, as it's invented, is immediately sort of racing off, and so it's like I try to put important things in, and but without making it an illustration of any sort. I just wanted it to be like you're in the motion. So.
And there's at the end of the piece, the part with the wheels and the telegraph poles is you told me at some point, was it also a reference to Osorblina's idea of the bioadapter, which I was very curious to know more about.
The bioadapter was his sort of invention. Well, it's just an idea that sometime in the future, well, we are very close to this now already. With it'd be possible to wear a suit that fulfills all your needs, all your. You have, you can feel like you're walking. You can feel like you're seeing things. You can feel like, I mean, it's all because it's all suggested. Like, I guess now you have the VR goggles, and it's almost there. But he thought he wanted it to be really perfect. So there was really no more need to be in the physical world at all. So, which is
an idea that we could basically download we would have these cybernetic extensions, and we would. Did you make the connection in this piece to mobile phones then?
To
the way that we use handheld devices these days? Yeah.
So we are already hybrids, very much like with a part of my brain is in my phone. Well, my large part of it is but it's more a capital. I mean, it's more that it works already, but at the moment it just mainly works to sell us things, because we buy everything. He wanted it. For him, it wasn't about so everybody would buy what they needed. It was more about they would have what they needed. Yeah.
So you wouldn't approve. I guess there's, in a way, this in a sense, I feel there's this almost opposition between the natural subjects, the way, most of the painting is devoted to pre-anthropocentric imagery, I guess, in a way. There's this natural subjects, there's the prehistoric cave paintings, at Lascaux, the Tree of Knowledge. In many ways, that seems almost at odds with the idea of the bioadapter, with the last images of the painting, which sort of hint more towards the 20th and 21st century. And I wonder if there's also, in a way, a certain, I don't want to say moral narrative, because this is putting it a little bit too strong, but I guess, does it also speak about how the world has changed in this course of time?
It more speaks about how we are possibly. I mean, it's more like that we are very much at an end at the moment. So, not to sound, but it feels like that's I think that's what I was trying to just show, that we are very close to the idea of like maybe no longer existing because of where we are with our technology. That's
mentally and physically.
Yeah. So.
I guess also, I think you mentioned earlier the relationship to, or the comparison to film with this piece, which I was also aware of. And I was thinking today about how your work is often described as having a dreamlike quality, or, you know, like this, I think something also what you were talking about before, about this idea of holding an image in your head and, you know, and getting it down, and what it means to put that down on paper. And I think I always associate this dreamlike quality that people speak about in your painting also with the speed at which you put images down, you set images down on paper or canvas or on the wall. And watching this piece being unrolled as it was installed in the vitrine, there was also like this kind of early, it's almost like watching a piece of cameraless film, you know, like early artist film, in the way that the image was kind of appearing in real time. And yeah, so I was thinking about this relationship to cinema and film, and also since we're in the city of Freud, who thought of dreams as the road to the royal road to the unconscious, I think there's also an argument for thinking of cinema as a form of dreaming. And I'm wondering where painting comes into this, and if you would make an argument also for painting as a form of dreaming.
So painting is definitely, I mean, you can of course dream when you're painting it. That's kind of definitely true, and making things appear on the canvas it makes you think. That's what I was saying earlier, that you sort of, more than visualizing it in your head, you start visualizing it on the canvas. So you're actually painting the dream instead of dreaming it, because and then you're looking at it and you're dreaming. That's the. Mm. But and then also it's because the marks are just appearing like shadows, and so there's the idea that there's some sort of reality somewhere else, and the painting is the imprint of the projection. So that happens as well. Like there's a bigger world, and then the paintings are like a window to that bigger world. Mm.
But the activity of painting itself is a way also of disassociating with the world in a way. Is that what you were trying to say as well? Or
no, looking at another world, yeah. Mm. Or this, yeah. No, I don't really. I mean, I sketch, but not in advance. More like alongside. Yeah, like I don't. It's not like I didn't make a sketch for that painting. I couldn't, because I didn't know what it was going to look like.
But like the general outline of the composition, or the way it's going to progress, you have that in your head in advance. Or was it something okay? Because I looked at it just now, and I noticed in the middle there's cave paintings, which is funny because on the left side it's more like this mythical part of like the sun and all these rather biblical things in our head, and then there's this turning point, at least for me, in the middle of cave paintings, and then it becomes sort of like more to see. And it's for me it's not interesting, because this cave painting has this sort of like they painted by hand, and then we now know that you paint by on the floor, and then you have this strange kind of touch versus brush, and it's kind of like the middle, as if you had blended. But that's why I'm curious
I started it as you go along. That's how I painted it. That's the first mark I made. Yeah.
And then there's a face exactly as you turn the corner. That's kind of, you knew that there's going to be the corner that needs some.
Not exactly, but when I rolled it out in the studio, but in my mind I was here, standing here, walking along, so I was conscious, very much of the effect maybe, or the appearance, or the image. Yeah.
Thank you for opening up. I think it's a good moment to do that. Does anyone else have any questions? Yes, please. Do we need?
This, I mean, because of here, it had to be on a canvas, on a large canvas that I work on in the studio, it's more all around. It's not like beginning and end. But the murals often have that timeline, actually, because of just I work myself through the space, so it's like a timeline. So that's the Stone Age in Hanover, going up to the present day Hanover. This is something else. This is.
I remember that also the one in Colchester being meticulously, but if not sketched, like physically drawn, it was meticulously planned. You knew exactly which parts of the story you wanted to have and which parts of the wall and where you were ending up. So I guess there's a lot of, would it spoil it for you somehow to try and draw it first?
It would make it less interesting to actually paint it if I.
It's more exciting to just put it down, first.
Satisfied with something that turns out to end up on the canvas, and then you have a problem?
I have many problems, yeah.
We all do.
Yeah.
But can you remove something?
No. I mean, actually, there was a mural just now where I did actually, the one I painted in Berlin, in the Brücke Museum, I did actually remove, I made a painting and I changed it because of so I can do it. But it's in a way in the paintings it's less. I don't like going over things on the canvases because it becomes like sort of work back and forth, like changing. It becomes sort of. Yeah. No, I don't know. I want the frames. I do think of the frames, but I do very much think of the painting as one
Yes, that was the thing that we couldn't plan with the image, where those black lines would fall.
The moon, with the moon, we had to move the moon slightly because of the frame.
Yeah, but I was only actually today thinking about how that also makes it feel more like a strip of film. Those, you already said it, but those kind of interruptions in the image. Yes.
If you just start out painting without any preparation, or maybe preparation in the form of thinking, do you have a lot of fear and anxiety, especially if you're like in a museum and that you know maybe it's not gonna work out? Or are you before you start painting, do you have to get into a mood where you don't actually have the anxiety that you're gonna fail in this painting? Because when you actually paint, they seem like really like strong and confident, so you can be anxious at the moment, I guess.
I mean, I have changed. I mean, I used to be like, I would only paint at the end of the day after like, when there was really nothing else left to do, then I would paint because then it's like, okay, fine. Now I'm much older and I have that, immediately have that, even first thing in the morning, I I have that sort of, I can get into that space where nothing else is possible. Yeah, but it's a lot of fear.
Something just came back to me that you told me like a long time ago, which is about becoming a mother, made you lose a lot of fear. I don't know if you remember that. I think you told me when we were working together in Essex. But
yeah, I mean, it's you never know whether it's the time thing as well, and the fear. Yeah, that's yeah, maybe I.
yeah, having less time for redoing something. Or yeah. Any more questions?
No. I do have a lot of old canvases, but I don't really throw them away. Yeah. 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 Yes. Some is rolled up, some is stretched. I have, yeah, a big storage now. Yeah.
Any more questions? Yes.
How? Somehow I've always immediately done. I've always done that. I like it because it's so immediate, and it's. I think I did it. Just. It's almost like I feel like there's something I see on the wall, and then I just paint it. It's more. I like, yeah. I guess. I don't know when I first started it.
Maybe when we all did.
Yeah,
we
I think so. I think so.
2 or 3. I don't know, getting into trouble. Yeah. But was it as an artist? This was also, I think, maybe part of what happened with Hobby Pop. So many of the kind of exhibitions were also like the walls were yours in a way.
Yeah, we did a really great exhibition, the Kunsthalle in Düsseldorf in 1998, where we painted on the walls, and which was then quite sort of funny. Like hadn't people weren't really doing that like that then. Yeah.
We dug some books. Are it in one of those books?
Might be, yeah.
Over there. Yeah, we found some in the library, Hobby Pop Museum books. Are there any last questions? Because if there aren't, I have one, which is, what are you working on next?
Like exhibitions or
paintings,
and
subject matter.
Subject matter. I have. Well, the thing visible there is in the background is my large Turner painting. So this is something I go back to a lot, and I have been this year a lot going back on because it was Turner's 250th birthday and my 50th birthday, and so I sort of celebrated it with that painting, and I'm just thinking of. I made a few other paintings to do with, I guess, revisiting Turner and Romanticism, and this is for an exhibition in New York in March. Then I've just finished a group of paintings for a museum in China, where I painted. I used travels of Marco Polo and specifically silk, so the Silk Road, and paintings. I will paint on silk when I'm there. So I've made a whole series of paintings about his travels. I was listening to an audiobook of the travels of Marco Polo, and then just found a few images that I like, and yeah, that's. And then so I'm excited about the painting on silk there.
Not something you've done before, no.
I'm going to do it. Yeah,
the
I'll do
first
that. Yeah, very large silk things. Yeah.
I didn't mention it earlier, actually, but you're living in Margate, which is also now world famous, I think, for the Turner connection. That he would go there. It's on the south coast of England, and he would go there and paint the skies. And so a lot of the famous, like, kind of coastal scenes, at least from his paintings, are based on Margate skies, which I guess also played a part in your. I mean, it's been. I think maybe you moved around the time that we made this exhibition, right? Or
Yes,
shortly before.
I think those paintings were the first I made in that studio. Yeah.
And I've seen, there's several exhibitions since that have had this, these Turner skies in them, let's say.
Yeah, I mean, the seascape is something I just can go. Or the romantic seascape is something I can always. Like when I have nothing else to paint, I can always paint a big sky and sunset.
Thank you so much, Sophie. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Vienna Art Week.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you. Thank you.